I want you to close your eyes for a second. Just, picture a nursery.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the sanctuary of the home, right? You've got that soft, dim lighting, maybe some pastel colors on the walls, a mobile slowly spinning above a crib. It's meant to be the safest place in the world.
Absolutely. The calmest room in the house.
And sitting there, standing guard over a sleeping toddler, is the icon, the universal symbol of comfort.
The teddy bear.
Exactly. I mean, it is the ultimate transitional object, isn't it? It's the first friend.
The silent confidant.
Yeah, the thing you cling to when the thunder gets a little too loud or the shadows in the corner of your room start looking a little too long. It just represents safety and softness and, well, unconditional love.
You could probably say it's the most benign object in human history. It's the definition of wholesome.
Which is why it is going to be absolutely wild to strip all that stuffing away today.
Yeah.
Because, and I promise you I'm not making this up, this icon of softness was born from a bloody, violent, and deeply political event in the Mississippi swamp.
And it involves a tied-up bear, a crushed dog, and a Bowie knife.
It's an unbelievable contrast.
It really is. We tend to think of the teddy bear as this sort of timeless artifact of innocence, almost like it just dropped out of the sky fully formed.
Right.
But its origin, its genesis, is completely rooted in blood sport, in racial politics, and what really amounts to early 20th century industrial espionage. It's a messy, messy story.
We have a massive stack of research for this deep dive. And we are going on a journey. We're going from the, quote, hellish cane breaks of the Yazoo Delta in 1902.
All the way to the toy factories of Germany.
And we're going to talk about a moral panic in 1907 where priests genuinely believed that teddy bears were causing, and this is a direct quote, race suicide.
That chapter is just fascinating. It's a perfect case study of how a society projects its deepest anxieties onto the most innocent things.
And we're going to link all of that back to something much, much older.
Right.
We're going to look at ancient Ainu bear sacrifices in Japan to try and understand why we have this primal need to bring apex predators into our homes, into our beds.
That's a deep-seated impulse.
So our mission today is to deconstruct what we're calling the Ursine metamorphosis.
The Great Bear Transformation.
How did we, as a species, take a 500-pound killing machine and psychologically engineer it into a passive, big-headed baby substitute?
Well, to understand the toy, you have to understand the beast. And you have to understand the blood that was spilled to create the myth.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We had to start with the origin story, the legend. I feel like everyone kind of vaguely knows the story, right?
Or the sanitized version.
The Disney version. Theodore Roosevelt, the big conservationist president, he's out hunting, and he refuses to shoot a baby bear.
Yeah, it's a simple moment of mercy. It's cute. It's the story you tell your kids when they ask where their bear came from.
That is the myth that sold millions and millions of toys. The reality, as it so often is significantly grimmer.
And way more complex.
So let's set the scene properly, because I think people imagine TR, strolling through a nice park like a national forest he just founded.
Right, like a pleasant walk in the woods.
That is not what's happening. Let's start with the date.
Okay, so we're talking November 14th, 1902.
And the location is Sharkey County, Mississippi.
That's
It's
it.
not a vacation spot.
No, absolutely not. The environment here is... It's crucial to understanding the mood of the whole event. This isn't a pleasant hike in Yellowstone. This is the Yazoo Delta.
And the sources from the time, they describe it how?
Hellish. That's the word they use. We're talking about dense briars that just tear your clothes to shreds, endless swamps, thick cane brakes where visibility is practically zero. It's unforgiving, it's humid, it's miserable terrain.
And Roosevelt isn't just there to hang out. He's there with the governor, Andrew H. Longino. And ostensibly, there's a political reason for the trip.
Right. On paper, he's there to help settle a boundary dispute between Mississippi and Louisiana. That's the official story.
But let's be honest about TR.
Come on, he's not there to look at maps. Primarily, he is there to hunt. Roosevelt was the apostle of the strenuous life.
That was his brand.
It was his entire political identity. He didn't want a relaxing weekend. He wanted a trophy. He wanted a bear skin. And he was incredibly impatient about it.
The notes we have say he told his guides. What was it?
I must see a live bear the first day. Not I hope to, but I must.
That puts a huge amount of pressure on his hosts, right?
Immense pressure. You have the president of the United States basically demanding a bear. You can just picture him pacing around the camp, cleaning his glasses aggressively, just radiating impatience.
But spoiler alert, he didn't get one on day one.
No, or day 2, or day 3. For 3 days, the president is trudging through this godforsaken swamp, getting scratched up, covered in mud, and getting more and more frustrated.
And other people in the hunting party are succeeding.
Oh, yeah. Other members are spotting bears, some are getting kills, but TR, nothing. It's becoming a bit of a political embarrassment for Governor Longino. You can't invite the president to hunt and then send him home empty-handed. It's just bad form.
And this is where we have to introduce the true protagonist of this story,
Yeah.
because it's not Roosevelt. It's the man who actually did the work, a man named Holt Collier.
Holt Collier is a figure who really deserves his own deep dive. I mean, his biography is just astounding. He was born into slavery in 1848.
Okay.
He served as a Confederate scout during the Civil War, which is a whole complex history in itself. Then he works as a cowboy in Texas. By 1902, he was a legendary guide and hunter in the Delta, the best there was.
And the numbers are just staggering.
The sources say he had killed over 3,000 bears in his lifetime.
3,000.
Let that sink in. That is more than Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone combined.
So if anyone could find a bear for an impatient president, it was this guy.
He was the expert. He managed the pack of hunting dogs, about 40 of them, all highly trained. And frankly, he was the one in charge of the hunt.
Which is a fascinating social dynamic for 1902 Mississippi.
It is. You have a black man, a former slave, who is effectively giving orders to the white president of the United States and the governor of Mississippi because he is the only one who truly knows how to navigate that swamp and find a bear.
So the pressure is all on Collier. The president is getting antsy. So on the fourth day, what happens?
On the fourth day, Collier's dogs finally pick up a strong scent. And this is another place where the myth just completely diverges from reality. They aren't chasing a cute little cub.
No.
Absolutely not. They corner a full-grown black bear in a watering hole. The sources describe it as an old fat bear,
How big are we talking?
weighing somewhere between 235 and 250 pounds.
Yeah.
This is a big, powerful, cornered, and very dangerous animal.
That fights back.
It fights back hard. It's a brutal scene. The bear grabs Collier's favorite dog, a dog named Jocko, crushes its skull, and kills it.
Oh, man.
Now, you have to imagine this scene. You're Holt Collier. You're in charge of delivering a bear to the most powerful man in the country. But this bear is now destroying your pack of valuable dogs.
So he's in a bind.
A terrible bind. He has to save his remaining dogs, but he cannot shoot the bear. That is the cardinal rule.
Why?
The kill belongs to the president. That's the protocol. You don't steal the president's kill. That would be an even bigger insult than not finding one at all.
So what does he do? He can't shoot it, but he can't let it kill all his dogs.
He goes primitive. He wades into the water, literally jumps into the middle of this fray of dogs and bear, and he clubs the bear over the head with the stock of his rifle.
He hits it with his gun.
He hits it so hard he shatters the gun. The stock just splinters.
Wow. And the bear.
The blow stuns the bear. The sources say it was addled, which basically means it was dazed, semi-conscious. It wasn't dead, but it was incapacitated.
So then what?
Collier takes a lariat, a rope, gets it around the bear's neck, and ties the half-conscious animal to a willow tree.
Okay, so just to recap the innocent origin of the teddy bear so far. We have a dead dog with a crushed skull, a shattered rifle, and a 250-pound bear with a severe concussion tied to a tree in a swamp.
Precisely. That is the scene. So they blow the bugle to summon the president. Roosevelt finally arrives, expecting a chase, a hunt.
The strenuous life moment he's been waiting for.
Exactly. And instead, he finds this spectacle. It's a bloody, gasping bear tied to a tree. It's surrounded by dead or injured dogs, and a whole crowd of hangers-on and sycophants are shouting, "Let the president shoot the bear! Let the president shoot the bear!"
And this is the moment. This is the pivot point of history. TR takes one look at this sad, battered, tied-up animal and says no.
He refuses. But, and this is the critical nuance that always gets lost in the retelling, he doesn't refuse because the bear is cute.
No.
Or because he feels pity for it. He refuses because it is fundamentally unsportsmanlike.
It violates the code of the fair chase.
Yeah.
Can you explain that concept briefly?
Sure. It's an ethical code for hunters, one that Roosevelt himself helped popularize through the Boone and Crockett Club. It basically says the animal must have a fair chance to escape. It has to be a contest.
A sport.
Right. And to shoot an injured, tethered animal is not hunting. It's just an execution. It's slaughter. For Roosevelt, who was obsessed with manliness and honor and the ethics of the hunt, shooting this bear would have been cowardly.
So it wasn't about the bear's feelings. It was about Roosevelt's self-image as a sportsman.
100%. It was about his own code of honor.
But the story usually stops there,
Yeah.
right? The president spared the bear. The end. But he didn't really spare it, did he?
Not at all. The bear was grievously injured from the clubbing and from the dog attack. It was clearly suffering. Roosevelt refused to take the trophy shot himself, but he immediately ordered it to be, quote, put out of its misery.
And this is the detail that always gets left out of the children's book. So how did the bear actually die?
It wasn't shot. Another member of the party, a man named John Parker, who would later become the governor of Louisiana, he stepped in and killed the bear with a hunting knife.
With a knife.
Specifically, a Bowie knife. He slit its throat.
A Bowie knife. So the softest, cuddliest toy in the world is born from a knife kill in a Mississippi swamp.
The carcass was then slung over a horse and taken back to camp for processing. That is the reality of the situation.
But reality doesn't sell toys. For that, you need a story.
And for the story, you need a cartoonist.
Enter Clifford Berryman. This is where we move from the blood in the swamp to the ink on the page.
Right. 2 days later, November 16th, 1902, the Washington Post runs a political cartoon by Berryman, and the title is Drawing the Line in Mississippi.
Now, this title is a double entendre, right? It's doing some very heavy lifting politically.
Oh, it's brilliant. On the surface, the most literal meaning, it's about the hunt. Roosevelt is drawing the line at shooting a tied-up bear. That's the easy read.
But then there's the political layer.
The second meaning, which readers would have gotten immediately, is that boundary dispute we mentioned earlier between Mississippi and Louisiana. The president was there to help literally draw the line on a map.
But there's an even deeper meaning, a racial subtext that would have been very obvious to people in 1902.
It would have been impossible to miss. At the time, the phrase drawing the line was most often used in the context of segregation, of the color line.
And this is right after Roosevelt had caused a massive national scandal.
A huge scandal in the South. He had recently invited Booker T. Washington, the prominent black leader, to dine at the White House. Southern politicians were absolutely apoplectic.
So how does that connect to the cartoon?
Many political observers at the time, and many ordinary readers, interpreted Roosevelt's refusal to kill a defenseless black bear as a metaphor for his perceived stance against the lynching of black Americans.
A defenseless black bear.
Exactly. It's worth noting that the bear in the cartoon is black, and lynching was the absolute terror of the day. The cartoon, perhaps unintentionally, branded Roosevelt with this compassionate image regarding race relations in the South.
Wow. That has a whole new layer to it. It wasn't just a hunting cartoon. He was a political Rorschach test for anyone who saw it.
It really was. But let's look at the art itself, because the bear in that first cartoon, it does not look like a teddy bear.
Not at all.
No. The first iteration of the cartoon shows a fairly realistic, even fierce-looking bear, maybe a little smaller than the 250-pound reality, but it's still clearly an animal with claws and teeth. The guide, Holt Collier, is also in the cartoon, holding the rope.
But then something fascinating happens. The cartoon is a huge hit.
A massive hit. And Berryman keeps drawing the bear in subsequent cartoons. It becomes a recurring character, a sort of mascot for Roosevelt.
And it evolves.
It evolves rapidly. With each new cartoon, it shrinks. The snout gets shorter, the eyes get bigger and rounder and more pathetic. It goes from a shivering, frightened wild animal to a wide-eyed, cute, harmless little cub.
It's like watching real-time marketing evolution. He's essentially memifying the bear, making it more and more palatable.
It is the complete sanitization of violence. The blood, the dead dog, the shattered rifle, the Bowie knife, all of that is erased from the narrative.
And what's left?
What remains is the myth of the fair chase. The idea that the president is a strong but merciful protector of the innocent, and that image travels.
And it travels all the way to a little candy shop window in Brooklyn, New York.
Exactly. This brings us to the next section of our dive, the industrial race. Because this is where the bear leaves the woods and the newspaper and enters the global economy.
And this is like a classic case of simultaneous invention, isn't it?
It is. It's a perfect example. You have the American team and the German team working completely independently with poor transatlantic communication, and they come up with the exact same idea at almost the exact same time.
It's like the invention of calculus with Newton and Leibniz, but, with plush toys.
A slightly less world-changing but equally fascinating parallel.
So let's start with Team USA. We're talking about Morris and Rose Michtom.
Right. They were Russian Jewish immigrants living in Brooklyn. They ran a small penny store, sold candy, stationery, little novelties at 404 Tompkins Avenue.
And Morris Michtom sees the Berryman cartoon in the newspaper.
He sees the cartoon, he sees the public reaction to it, how people are talking about it, and he has a classic light bulb moment.
He goes to his wife, Rose, and says, "Hey, can you make a bear?"
Pretty much. Rose was a talented seamstress. She takes some plush velvet, sews it into the shape of a bear, and puts some shoe button eyes on it. It's very much a prototype.
And they put it in the shop window with a handwritten label.
The sign says, Teddy's bear,
2 words. Teddy's bear. And people go nuts for it.
instantaneously. But Morris was a savvy guy. He knew he was playing with fire using the president's nickname, so the Michtoms actually wrote to Roosevelt, didn't they?
They did. This is a great part of the story. They mailed the original bear to the White House as a gift for the president's children.
A very smart move.
And in the letter, they asked if they could have his permission to use his name on their new toy.
And TR's response is just classic Teddy Roosevelt. It's so self-deprecating.
What'd he say?
He essentially wrote back and said, I don't think my name is worth much in the toy business, but you're welcome to use it.
He had no idea what he was unleashing.
No clue. That permission slip launched an empire. The demand was so immediate and so overwhelming that the Michtoms couldn't keep up. They eventually closed the candy shop and founded the Ideal Novelty and Toy Company.
Which became a massive deal. I mean, this company, Ideal, they didn't just make bears. Later on, they made the Magic 8-Ball and they introduced the Rubik's Cube to America.
A huge legacy in the toy industry. But while the Michtoms are scrambling to sew velvet bears in a Brooklyn backroom, something very similar is happening, completely independently, in Gingen, Germany.
Team Germany. The Steiff dynasty. The story is just as compelling, but it's focused less on politics and more on pure design and innovation.
And resilience. It's a remarkable story. It starts with Margaret Steiff. She was a seamstress who had contracted polio as a child. She was paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair for her entire life.
But she ran her own business.
She did. She started out small, making felt pincushions in the shape of little elephants from a pattern she saw in a magazine.
And people started using them as toys, right?
Exactly. People bought them for sewing, but their kids just loved them. They were soft and small. So that's how the Steiff Toy Company began. But the bear comes from her nephew, Richard Steiff.
And Richard was an art student.
He was. And he was obsessed with bears. He spent all his time at the Stuttgart Zoo, sketching the bears in the enclosure, studying their movements, their anatomy.
And he wanted to create something different than the toys that were popular at the time. Because back then, bear toys were usually, on all fours on a little wooden platform with wheels?
Right. They were rigid, they were pull toys, they were more like decorations. Richard had a vision for a toy that was, in his own words, loved rather than feared.
You wanted it to be a companion.
Exactly. He wanted it to be upright like a person. And crucially, he wanted it to have movable arms and legs. He invented a system of string jointing to make it posable. He designed the 55PB.
Okay, let's decode that name. What does 55PB mean?
It's very German, very technical. 55 for 55 centimeters tall. P for plush, which is German for plush, and B for beweglich, which means movable or jointed.
So he takes this prototype, the 55PB, to the big Leipzig Toy Fair in 1903.
High hopes, and it completely flops.
Absolutely.
Total dud initially. No one wants it.
Yeah.
The European buyers think it's too expensive, it's too big, it's too weird looking. They're all looking for traditional dolls and tin soldiers. Richard is about to pack it all up.
But then,
on the very last day of the fair, an American buyer named Herman Berg happens to walk by the booth.
and he's from a big New York importer, George Borgfeldt and Company.
Right. And unlike the European buyers, Berg knows what's happening in America. He's seen the newspaper articles. He knows about the Teddy's bear phenomenon that's just starting to bubble up. He sees the 55PB and immediately gets it.
He connects the dots.
He connects the dots. He buys the entire lot of samples on the spot, about 100 bears, and places a massive order for 3,000 more.
And that order basically saves the company and launches the Steiff bear into history. But here's a mystery I found in the research that I just love.
The missing shipment.
The missing shipment. There are meticulous German factory records of those 3,000 bears being made and shipped. But there are no records of them ever arriving in America.
It is the great mystery of the Steiff archives. Where did the first 3,000 bears go?
The legend, the romantic story, is that they were on a ship that sank. The Titanic of Teddy's.
That's the story the company likes to tell, but most toy historians think the reality is probably a lot more mundane.
Which is when...
These were prototypes. The jointing system, which used string and cardboard discs at the time, it just wasn't very durable yet. The most likely scenario is that they arrived, were sold, and then they just fell apart very quickly in the hands of energetic American children and were simply thrown away.
That's kind of tragic. None of them survived.
It is. Not a single one from that first shipment is known to exist today. If you were to find an original 55 PB from that 1903 order in an attic somewhere, it would be the holy grail of toy collecting.
It would be priceless.
Absolutely priceless.
So by 1906, 1907, the world is just awash in teddy bears.
Yeah.
Teddy's bear has lost the apostrophes and has become just the teddy bear. But not everyone was happy about it.
No. I mean, whenever you have a massive, rapid cultural shift like this, you're going to get a backlash. And in 1907, we get a moral panic that is just, it's truly bizarre by modern standards.
This is my favorite part of the research.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Father Michael G. Esper.
A priest in St. Joseph, Michigan, he looked at little girls cuddling these new plush bears, and he saw the end of Western civilization.
He called them horrible monstrosities and a threat to the future of the race.
His argument was deeply rooted in the gender roles of the time. He believed that the proper toy for a little girl was a doll.
Why dolls specifically?
Because, in his view, dolls taught girls how to be mothers. You dress the doll, you feed the doll, you rock the doll to sleep, you're practicing for your future role in life. But bears taught them nothing. He argued that by cuddling beasts instead of baby dolls, little girls were losing their natural maternal instinct.
And he connected this to the concept of race suicide.
Which was a very popular, albeit deeply racist, anxiety of the era. Theodore Roosevelt himself actually spoke about this fear quite a lot.
And what was the fear exactly?
The fear held by many white Anglo-Saxons was that their birth rates were declining while the birth rates of the waves of new immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe were climbing. So in Father Esper's mind, the teddy bear was an agent of this eugenics-era destruction.
So a plush toy was going to convince women not to have babies, which would lead to the collapse of the white race.
That was the argument. It sounds completely laughable to us now, but people took it seriously.
There are newspaper editorials about it. Sermons were preached against the teddy bear.
There were, but the bear survived the panic. It was simply too lovable. However, it also had to survive a direct political attempt to replace it.
Oh, this is the story of the Billy Possum.
The Billy Possum disaster of 1908.
Tell us about this absolute train wreck of a marketing campaign.
So Roosevelt leaves office. His hand-picked successor, William Howard Taft, wins the presidency. Taft is from Ohio, but he wants to appeal to the South. He goes to a big banquet in Atlanta, and the main course, the dish served in his honor, is possum and taters.
Which sounds incredibly heavy.
It was reportedly an 18-pound opossum roasted with sweet potatoes. Taft, being a large man with a large appetite, supposedly loved it. He ate it heartily. So the toy companies,
They see dollar signs.
they think lightning is going to strike twice. If Teddy's bear worked for Roosevelt, then surely.
Billy Possum will work for William Howard Taft.
Exactly. They rush these stuffed opossums into production. They market them aggressively. Goodbye, Teddy Bear. Hello, Billy Possum.
So why did it fail so spectacularly? I mean, besides the obvious fact that it's a possum.
Well, I think you just hit on it. Look at the animal itself. A bear, especially a cub, is majestic. It's powerful, but can be seen as cute. It's warm. And a possum is, well, it's a scavenger.
It has a naked rat-like tail. It hisses. It plays dead.
Exactly. It completely lacks the dignity and the cuddly factor. The toy companies tried, but Billy Possum flopped hard within a year. It turns out you can't just manufacture a cultural icon from the top down.
It has to resonate on some deeper level.
It has to. The bear resonated because of the protection story, the mercy story. The possum was just a weird dinner that the president ate one time. It didn't stick.
And while all this is happening, the industry itself, the bear business, got really nasty really fast.
Oh, it was industrial warfare. Steiff, being the premium brand, was suing everyone. Cheap imitations were flooding the market from dozens of other German and American companies.
This is when they invented their famous trademark, right?
Yes, the button in ear, the Nof im Ohr. It was created specifically as a mark of authenticity to stop the knockoffs.
And they were suing competitors, like a company called Bing.
Viciously. They got into intense legal battles with Bing over the design for a somersaulting bear. They were fighting over trademark positioning, patents for joint mechanisms. It wasn't a gentle, cuddly business. It was ruthless.
But let's go back to why the bear won. Why the possum lost. It's not just about the animal itself. It's about how the toy changed over time.
Yes, this is the really crucial part, the psychological engineering. This is where we get into the science of cute.
If you look at an original 1902 Steiff bear, the 55 PB, it looks like a real bear. It has a hump on its back. It has a long snout. It has beady little eyes. It looks like an animal.
It does. It's a miniature model of a predator. But if you look at a teddy bear from the 1950s, or a Care Bear from the 1980s, or a modern Gund bear, the anatomy is completely different.
The forehead is huge. The nose and mouth are tiny and pushed down to the bottom of the face. The eyes are enormous. The limbs are short and chubby.
This is what the famous ethologist Konrad Lorenz called the Kindchen schema, or the baby schema.
The baby pattern.
Exactly. Humans, like most mammals, are hardwired to respond to a specific set of features with a nurturing instinct. A large head relative to the body, large eyes set low on the face, round cheeks, a retreating chin.
Basically, the features of a human baby.
Precisely. Manufacturers, whether they did it consciously or just by following sales trends, selected for these traits because they sold better. Over decades, they effectively genetically modified the simulation of a bear to hack our own parenting instincts.
They turned a predator into a permanent infant.
It's kind of manipulative when you think about it that way.
It is entirely manipulative. It's directed design evolution. We didn't just make a toy bear. We engineered a super stimulus for affection. We designed an object that our brains cannot help but want to protect.
But there is a downside to this, isn't there? A concept from conservation psychology called the extinction of experience.
Explain that.
The idea is that for most people in the modern world, the plush bear is now more real than the biological bear. Our primary experience with a bear is this soft, cuddly, safe object.
We love the symbol.
We love the symbol, we love the Coca-Cola polar bear, we love Paddington and Winnie the Pooh, but the actual Ursus americanus, the apex predator that will break into your car for a candy bar or attack your dog, we struggle to coexist with that reality.
We love the idea of the bear, but we've sanitized the actual animal out of our emotional existence.
We have replaced the wild with the tame. We've replaced the real with the representation. And this brings us to the deepest layer of our guide today. Because this impulse, this powerful need to take the wild bear and bring it into the house, it isn't new. It didn't start in a Mississippi swamp in 1902.
This connects us to the Ainu people of Japan.
The Ainu, who are the indigenous people of Hokkaido and northern Japan, for centuries they have practiced a ritual called Iomante.
And this is an intense concept. This is not for the faint of heart.
It is intense, but it's crucial to try and view it through their cultural and spiritual lens. The Ainu practice arctolatry, which is simply bear worship.
They see the bear as a god.
Yes. They believe the bear is a divine spirit, a kamui who is visiting the earthly world in disguise, wearing a bear costume. And the bear brings gifts for humanity, its meat and its fur.
So in this Iomante ritual, they don't just hunt the bear, they adopt it.
It's much more complex than a hunt. The hunters would capture a bear cub, often in late winter. Sometimes this involved killing the mother in her den, and they would bring this live cub back to the village.
And then what?
And then they would raise this cub inside the house.
Like a pet.
More than a pet, like a member of the family. The anthropological sources are explicit. The cub would be treated with the utmost affection and respect. It would be fed the best food from their own plates. And in some documented cases, I knew women would even breastfeed the cubs alongside their own human children.
Wow. That is an intimate connection. That is a level of relationship we can barely comprehend.
It signifies a total collapse of the boundary between human and animal, wild and domestic. But here is the profound twist. They raise this bear for 2 or 3 years. It becomes part of the family. It is loved. And then
Comes the Iomante.
the sending ceremony.
Yes. When the bear grows too large and powerful to be kept safely, they hold a great festival. They take the bear out of its cage, they tie it to a special stake, which they call a club tree, and they ritually kill it.
They kill their family member.
From their perspective, they believe they are liberating the god spirit from its fleshly prison. They are sending the kamui back to the spirit world. The ritual is complex. They use special ceremonial arrows, blunt ones first, called flower arrows, to play with it, then sharp ones. Finally, they strangle it between 2 logs.
It sounds incredibly brutal to us.
To the modern Western mind, it seems like a terrible betrayal. You love this thing, you raise it, and then you kill and eat it. But to the Ainu, it was the highest act of worship.
They believed the bear spirit wants to return to the spirit world. And if it does, it will tell the other gods about how well it was treated by the humans, how much it was loved and respected. This ensures the gods will send more bears and more prosperity in the future. They decorate the skull with sacred wood shavings and display it as an altar.
I'm starting to see the connection you're making here. It's about domestication.
Think about the teddy bear. What do? We take a simulation of a wild, dangerous predator, we bring it into our most sacred domestic space, the nursery. We treat it like a family member, we give it a name, we dress it in human clothes.
We domesticate the monster.
Precisely. The teddy bear is a sanitized, secular, modern version of this ancient spiritual impulse. The Ainu worship the bear by raising it and then sending its soul back to the gods. We worship the bear by stuffing it with kapok, stripping it of its teeth and claws, and keeping its spirit trapped in a state of permanent frozen infancy.
It's about control. In both cases, it's about establishing control over the wild.
It is. The swamp in Mississippi was uncontrollable. The 250-pound bear that killed Jocko the dog was uncontrollable. But the bear in the shop window, the bear with the button in its ear, that is safe. That is controllable. That is ours.
It's a way of conquering our fear of the natural world.
Exactly. We conquer the forest by turning its most powerful king into a toy for our children.
So bringing it all back to the start, it's an incredible thread. We have a bloodied bear tied to a tree in Mississippi.
We have a disabled seamstress in Germany overcoming her paralysis to build an empire.
We have a bizarre race suicide panic led by a Michigan priest.
And it all echoes a ritual sacrifice from the indigenous people of Japan.
And sitting there, right in the middle of all that history, all that blood and politics and commerce, is the softest thing you own.
It really should change how you look at the toy shelf. It's not just fluff.
Not at all.
The teddy bear is a transitional object, as you said, in more ways than one. It bridges the gap between child and adult. Yes, that's the psychological definition, but it also bridges this much larger gap between our ancient primal fear of the wild and our modern desire to control and cuddle it.
It's a monument to our deep human need to turn monsters into pets.
And perhaps our need to rewrite our own history. To take the blood out of the swamp and replace it with velvet and button eyes. To tell ourselves a much nicer story than the one that actually happened.
I have one final question for you. A provocative thought to leave our listener with.
Go for it.
If Roosevelt had just shot the bear that day, if it had been a simple, unremarkable kill, or if Holt Collier hadn't managed to club it and tie it up, if that bear had just escaped into the canebrake, would the modern nursery look completely different? Or is the human need to tame the monster, to turn predators into plush toys, so inevitable that we would have found another way to do it?
That's a fascinating counterfactual. Without the cartoon, without the Teddy name to hang it on, perhaps we'd all be cuddling stuffed Billy possums, or, I don't know, maybe the nursery would be a much colder, less wild place. Maybe we needed that specific, bloody, complicated moment to create the icon we have today.
I don't know about you, but I'm keeping my eye on the possums, just in case they ever try to stage a comeback.
Laughs, I wouldn't bet on it. They just don't have the eyes for it.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Stay curious.
And maybe hug your teddy bear a little tighter tonight. It's seen something.